Like football, business moves fast. And when you need funding, there's no time to wait. At Fleximize, we keep things simple. No penalties, no red cards, just fast, flexible business loans. We only ask for the essentials and you'll get a decision within 24 hours. Once approved, the funds are in your account the same day. Fleximize, let's fund your goals.
Hello and welcome back to Matchday Preview Live, streaming live on X, YouTube, Facebook and Town TV. Proudly brought to you by the club's headline digital partner, Fleximize, the UK's award-winning lender providing fast, flexible business loans. We've got a packed show tonight as Town head to the Riverside Stadium to face Middlesbrough after the international break. We'll be looking back at that fantastic win against Norwich, bringing you all the latest updates from across the club and previewing tonight's big fixture, hoping Town can pick up another win. We've got two very special guests ready to bring all the chat, analysis and opinions you need. And we want you to get involved too. Send in your thoughts, questions or predictions for your chance to be featured live on the show. It's Middlesbrough versus Ipswich Town, and it all kicks off right here on Matchday Preview Live. Alongside me, we have two familiar faces in a not so familiar location. Welcome, Cole Scouse and Luke Hyam. Now, you may have noticed we are in Portman Road's reception area. That is because the stadium where the studio is having a bit of work done. But that does mean we are next to this famous Ed Sheeran guitar. Now, Ed, I know you're probably watching now that you are Town TV's self-appointed director of music. So thanks for tuning in and letting us use all your wonderful tunes. This isn't too bad, is it, lads?
No, I don't mind it. It's nice.
It's quite nice.
It is really nice. So, yeah, can't complain.
Cole, it feels like I haven't seen you in such a long time. So my first question, as always, how is non-league management at step 3?
I know that'd be your first question. I know our chat of non-league football is always a hot topic. Really enjoying it. Obviously, we had a really good season last season, got promotion. And then the step up in leagues, the disparity is not huge. We've been really, really good. We've been very competitive. Points probably aren't reflective of performances. We've had a relatively good start, and I still think we'll be really competitive. So overall, it's been a reasonable start.
Luke, you were a non-league manager. Do you miss it?
In ways, we've obviously just been speaking about non-league off air, and certain aspects obviously I miss, and then other aspects I don't. But yeah, be nice to get back involved for sure. Right,
Friday night football under the lights at the Riverside. It's going to be a tough night for Town, but going into it, a lot of good form.
They are, and they had an unbelievable result and a really good second half performance just before the break. Again, the last time I was on this show, it was in around an international break, and there's pros and cons to them. I think they are starting to gather a little bit of momentum. I was obviously at the Bristol City game away from home. Spells of that were good. It still wasn't a real fluid and sort of a real click of a performance. Then the result against Norwich is obviously huge from a psychological aspect, where it's been such a long time in getting a result in that fixture. I think they would have liked another game straight after. I don't think international break would have been sort of a real positive for them, but you're hoping lads that have gone away have come back fresh, lads have had a reasonable break, had a good weeks of training, and then rolling into this evening's fixture, which is Friday nights are always nice because you've got the weekend off. But hopefully it's a positive result alongside a positive performance.
And how special are those nights under the lights on a Friday? We're getting used to them now, aren't we?
Yeah, it does make a difference. I think having those Tuesday night games or those Friday night games, it does make a massive difference to the atmosphere. And like Scousey said, it's always a perk because you have the weekend off, fingers crossed, depending on how the result goes. So hopefully it goes well for us tonight.
Well, the Blues' last match will be remembered for a very long time. A 3-1 victory in the East Anglian derby over Norwich. Finally, the 16-year wait is over. Town secured all 3 points, and we got to witness that very special goal. Yes, unbelievable scenes as the 16-year wait is finally over. Before we start talking about that game, we looked at the pictures as the players were arriving there, and you went, that makes a massive difference. Just as players, sum up what they would have been feeling inside that coach.
Yeah, absolutely, it makes a massive difference. I always think it's those little inches which then make that mile. So obviously when the players came in, having that sort of reception and atmosphere, it makes a massive difference. Then even since me and Scousy have been here, the club has just transformed immensely. So yeah, it can only help on the pitch. So the things off the pitch need to be right to then help the lads on the pitch. So yeah, it's been brilliant.
Yeah, and that atmosphere carried from outside the stadium to inside it, where it was absolutely electric. Again, the players would have taken all of that energy into their performance on the pitch.
Yeah, they would have. And those situations prior to the game are just as big for the fans as they are for the players. As much as that would have been a hell of a buzz on that bus coming through the smoke, the atmosphere, the numbers that were on the streets. Coming into the stadium would have given that real extra special feel. Although the old adage saying of every game's treated the same, it really isn't. When you're playing on a special occasion like the derby, it is that extra bit special. So as much as it's a real buzz for the players, like Himesy said, for those fans that have had that early start, that build up for a game that's highly anticipated because of the length of wait for a win, rolling that into the stadium, it's only going to be natural that it's going to continue, and that flow of atmosphere is going to come into the stadium alongside it.
Luke, what stood out for you from that performance from the Blues?
Like I say, we can talk about the atmosphere. Going back to what Scousy said, obviously, I'm sure Kieran McKenna would have done exactly the same preparation, but obviously the atmosphere does play a massive part. But it's that individual quality and that squad depth massively played a part. I thought Norwich were poor on the day. There weren't too much in it, especially first half, but I thought, like I say, their individual qualities, especially with that strike from Jayden, was incredible. And then I think the last half an hour of that game, we took total control of it and we put it to bed.
Yeah, Luke mentions it there. There was plenty of individual quality from that performance. Let's take a look back at those goals. And it started off with an unlikely scorer in Cedric Keeper. How important was it, Scousy, in a game like that to get the opening goal?
Huge. Yeah, really important. And I'm delighted for him because he's been patient. He's had to wait a long time to come into the side. And I think he's looked really, really assured. And his performance, you can, in terms of his athleticism, he's incredibly strong boy. And he's got a desire to want to defend. But in terms of your original question, getting that first goal and keeping that momentum in the crowd was absolutely vital, really. And then well, I'm going to let you carry on with this bit.
Well, yeah, this is the individual brilliance we were talking about from Jayden Furlong. Scousy, you said that's the second best goal scored at that end.
Yep.
Your one against Cardiff apparently is number one, and we put Wes Burns in third with the Trivella. but Luke, to do something like that in a game like that on your supposed weak foot is just incredible, isn't it?
But you go back to it, I think over these past 5-6 weeks, I think he's been a completely different player from last season. And that just shows to you, not just Jayden Furlong, but every football player, everyone in general, really, that confidence plays a massive part. And you think with Jayden Furlong obviously picking his form up immensely, and then Jack Clarke as well, I think he's got 4 goals in the last few weeks as well. It does play a massive part, but obviously when confidence is high, and you're winning the ball near the edge of, on the halfway line, to then strike it with your weaker foot and then to go in the goal like that was very good. So yeah, it's only going to help us. Obviously, it's just trying to get our individual players who have got that quality to get their confidence up. And like I say, when we've got Jayden Furlong producing magic moments like that, it's fantastic.
One player that was full of confidence was Marcelino Nunez when he came on, and he was involved in that goal. But that squad depth that we've got now, with Jack Clarke as well coming off the bench, scoring goals, it's arguably the best squad in the division.
I think quite comfortably. And like you said, Nunez, fair play to him, he's quite reserved in his celebrations.
He's going to get a frosty reception when he goes to Carrow Road, isn't he?
I think so. But the depth, like Himesy said, there was quite a bit of disparity, I think, between the two. And I've said this on numerous occasions, the depth within the group, you're looking at the list here in front of us, it's quite remarkable, really. It would have been, you can argue this would be probably one of the strongest squads they've had within this league. But even within that, going back to Luke's point, Philogene has been the individual to a relative slow start, has been the individual that's gripped the season, I think. And I think he's shifted the momentum almost single-handedly. Within it, there's been really good performances. I still think Leif Davis has been outstanding to start the season. The energy and the quality he brings from that left side, you can argue is one of the best bit of business they've had in the summer, keeping hold of him, because he would have had interest. But I think Philogene has been the standout where he has gripped the season, and he's full of confidence, but there will be go-to players within your groups, and he's been the one for the group. He's been the one that's gripped the season so far, and he's absolutely flying at the minute.
Yeah, the squad depth is there for everyone to see, and we could see what those substitutes made of all those goals. We had the bench cam available for the Norwich game. As we look at these scenes, Luke, this is what it's all about, isn't it? The togetherness of everyone on that bench. There weren't as many people when you were playing on that bench, but it's great to see, isn't it?
Yeah, it's brilliant. Now, it's always interesting to see the reaction, not just from fans, but obviously from managers and staff alike. And even that one where Rennie Gilmartin...
Even the Norwich player couldn't believe it went in.
No, it's always nice just to see the togetherness, which not just obviously when you see it on the pitch, but off the pitch we have, because like you say, the amount of staff we have, there's obviously staff which don't even get on the bench, but it is a massive collective, not just obviously the players on the pitch, the players on the bench and the staff. There's loads of people behind the scenes, so that goes through the whole club. So yeah, it's great to see that.
I was going to say, Scousy, you need that support on the bench to be successful in a long championship season. There'll be players that will be naturally disappointed that they're not starting, but you need that togetherness to push up the table and, finish top.
You do, and I'm smiling and laughing because I'm looking at Matt Byard there, who's been here for, I think the club was built around him, but an incredible human being who I'm delighted for the other week. Got a bit of exposure and praise from Kieran for what he does, and he spoke, I think, before the Norwich game. He will be one that's seen the ups and downs at a football club, and it's delighted to see him. He broke into a smile there. Fair play to him. But the amount of staff you have now at a football club, and I think it is the point that Luke made earlier about gaining those inches or extra percentages. If every single part of the backroom staff can add a percentage or 2 or 5 or 10, whatever it may be, that's only going to enhance the football club, which ultimately enhances the boys on the pitch, which then has the bigger end goal of gaining promotion.
Right, it was a very memorable afternoon of football. Let's focus our attention back on tonight's game and rewind to December 2023, the last time Town played at the Riverside, and they secured a 2-0 victory on the road.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Riverside Stadium, where its friends reunited. Today, Kieran McKenna and Michael Carrick will face each other from opposing dugouts for the first time as Ipswich prepare to do battle with Middlesbrough. Just trying to compare it to the last time Ipswich were in the North East, that trip to Sunderland on the opening day of the season. That was a very different atmosphere indeed, as Wes Burns now will look to attack down the Ipswich right. Feels for a penalty from handball, but it's deflected in, is it? Colin Chaplin with the hit from the edge of the Middlesbrough penalty area. It's another clean strike from Chaplin. 6'4" Matt Crooks, an aerial threat. It's in towards Crook and it's saved by Hladky.
And he's in a terrific position to save it. It made it look easy.
This might open up for Ipswich Town here. It's Hutchinson through on goal. Omari Hutchinson! Yes! Cool as you like. He played over the allocated 5 minutes of added time, and the away end erupts. Ipswich Town have won at the Riverside for the first time since August 2010. Another 3 points for the Blues. Ipswich have also kept a clean sheet. And at full time here at the Riverside, it's finished Middlesbrough 0, Ipswich Town 2.
A big win at the Riverside for Town on the road. Let's hope they can do the same this evening. Earlier in the week, both managers have been really complimentary about both sides. And Rob Edwards said that this could be their toughest test. They'll get a better understanding of where they are as a football club this season. But it's probably the same for Town as well, isn't it? This is a really tough game to go and get 3 points at the Riverside, Luke.
Yeah, it is tough. And like Rob Edwards just said, regarding in terms of their league position, it is still early days. But obviously they've had a good start. They haven't won in 3. I think they're won in 5. But like I say, they've started off really well. Ipswich in bit of a mismatch, a bit of form in terms of, I feel like the games which we've won is just through individual quality, and we haven't really hit our top form as of yet, which is still promising because, like I say, we're getting results when we're not being at our best. But yeah, it's going to be a tough evening. We know that because, like I say, Middlesbrough are second in the table, and the table doesn't lie. Yeah,
Luke mentioned it there, Cole, that they've not won in 5, and obviously they're coming off the back of that defeat to Portsmouth, where they were well beaten. Obviously, with Town's momentum, did the international break help Middlesbrough more than it would help Ipswich?
Yeah, going back to my point earlier, there are times within seasons where, as players and as groups, you're like, we need a break for all of us, really, to sort of recharge physically, but also mentally. It would have been perfect timing for Middlesbrough, and like I said earlier, probably bad timing for Ipswich. And it's a really, really tough place to play, Middlesbrough, for opposing teams, but for the home team, because if you don't get off to a good start and you off the back of a bit of a bad patch for them, albeit they've had a relatively good start, they're in a bit of a bad patch. If they don't get off to a good start, it soon turns, and then that gathers a little bit of momentum and it snowballs into a pressurised environment for them. So they need a really, really bright start against a team that's got that little bit of momentum and got unbelievable amounts of depth. So for both clubs, it will be their biggest test this early in the season.
And with that added pressure of the size of the clubs, obviously Town were in the Premier League last season. Middlesbrough have been desperate to rejoin the Premier League. As former players, does that add any extra pressure, even though it's so early on in the season?
I think you're always going to be under pressure. I think whatever club you play for, and especially I think you look at the teams in the Championship, even going into League One, there's loads of fans would say that their club is a big club. Middlesbrough and Ipswich have got good history, obviously both been in the Premier League recently, obviously Ipswich more so than Middlesbrough, but they're both invested heavily. So there's always going to be pressure on not just the players, but obviously the managers. But like I say, it's going to be interesting tie for both teams tonight, and it's going to be a tough test for Ipswich, that's for sure.
Azor Matasiwa said in his press conference that there's more to come from this Ipswich team. There's plenty of room for growth, which, considering how well it's been of late, that's interesting to hear from the players, and that there's more to come from this team and we can expect bigger things, which I'm sure they're working on the training pitch week in, week out, and Kieran McKenna will get the best out of this squad.
Yeah, that's also refreshing to hear from a current player, because it's almost robotic when you hear them speak and it's like, oh no, we're doing okay, we'll be brilliant. So for him to be honest, which I think he's only stating what everyone else is thinking, they haven't quite hit the heights that everyone expected, which again's alarming for the rest of the league, because if they're not quite at full tilt and picking up a bit of momentum and still sat in a reasonable spot, it's really, really early. And it's not until, again, Christmas time, rolling into the second part of the season, that it starts to kind of create how it may look, barring one or two that may have a late surge. So for him to come out and be as honest as he was and say, look, we're still not at full tilt, there's loads to come, and knowing how, having spoken to players prior, how much detail Kieran goes into in terms of preparation for not just every single game, but for the duration of the season. Again, I'm certainly not a betting man, but I'm still tipping Ipswich to be at the very, very top of the tree.
We'll talk more about the team lineup a little bit later on. Town are unchanged from the game against Norwich. Is that a sign of that consistency that we need to keep moving? Because obviously when you were at the Bristol City game, there was 6 changes. I think it was Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday. So you expected the rotation, but that consistency that we're going to see potentially tonight might be the key to getting 3 points on the road.
Absolutely. I think it is the key, and to have that consistency of the team, but at the same time, we've alluded to it, not just on this show, but on other shows, that the squad depth we have. So it's hard for him to balance it all out in terms of having that consistency of a starting 11, but then keeping players who are happy on the bench. Like you say, you've got Ashley Young. He's dropped down the division where I feel like he still could have been at a Premier League club. Like, is he going to be happy to be been a bit part player on the bench? He's not. So it is a tough one, because especially in the Championship season, it's Saturday, Tuesday, so you are going to have to rotate at a certain degree. But I do think you do need to have that strong, solid base and spine where you know who you want to be starting throughout. So, but it's a tough one, and unfortunately, Kieran McKenna's got to make that tough decision.
Part of that solid base and right through the middle of the pitch is Jens Kajustad, who every time I watch him, I'm sure Town fans would agree, has been phenomenal. And it's refreshing to hear Kieran say in the press conference that physically he's looking really good and improving, which again would probably frighten a lot of Championship teams because he's been sensational.
Yeah, it will do. And I spoke about keeping Leif Davis was an unbelievable bit of business in the summer, arguably some of the best. I don't think, and I'm ever the optimist, that Jens would have come back to the football club. He had an unbelievable season in the Premier League. I thought that he may have stayed within the Premier League. I thought a Premier League team off the back of his season may have come and taken him. Or he may have bounced into a big club in Europe somewhere. So to get him back proves not only his love for the place and how well he felt and how comfortably felt in this surrounding, almost the power of the club as well to bring him back and be almost a signal of intent. Like, we're not bouncing back and hoping we bounce back out of luck or with the squad we've got. We're going to have a real powerful push. And again, you can argue he's one of the best midfielders in the league, almost hands down. Some of the stuff he does, he makes it look so easy as well. He plays at his own pace, always looking with a purpose, always looking to play forward, and then he brings a little sprinkle of flair as well. He's a top player, and he seems a lovely fella as well. So he's a massive one to have at the football club. And like you said, if he's only going to get better, then wowzers.
Yeah, a very exciting player. And I tell you who's another very exciting player who's going to be at the football club for another 3 years. Midfield maestro Jack Taylor has extended his contract at the club, and he's been speaking to Town TV's Andy Warren.
Jack, new contract. Must feel really good. Yeah, obviously delighted to get it sorted. When I found out the club wanted to extend my stay here, so yeah, it was a no-brainer really. And what kind of things, from your point of view, go into that decision about whether you're going to stay, sign a new contract, that kind of thing? A big thing was the way that the club's moving, and I just think the values of the whole club, not just the team. I think the way we interact with fans and the communities is a massive thing for me, and yeah, I'm just delighted to stay on and just try and push this club to get back in the Premier League. Yeah, it's been a good couple of years for you, hasn't it? Lots of new experiences in there, so that must have contributed as well, the stuff on the pitch. Yeah, definitely. Like, on the pitch stuff's been really good. Obviously, the promotion when my first year here was such an amazing time to be a part of, and I'm hoping for this similar memories this season. So I'm having a nightmare with this scarf. Yeah, so just hopefully just reenact or have the same sort of feeling as we did that year and take it into this year.
Jack Taylor, who extends his contract at the club till 2028. We've spoken about squad depth, and Jack even mentioned it there about the project and believing in it and keeping your players. It's important that Town keep players like Jack at the football club.
Yeah, I think obviously we've made a lot of changes in the summer, but I do think you underestimate having long-serving players as well at the club who know the club inside out, and it's hard because when we were obviously at Town together, we had Scusi and Chamber who kind of just run the dressing room, and I feel like fans don't see that behind the scenes, and I feel like that is massive for the manager, because like you say, you've got like a mini manager in the dressing room. So it is key that you say you've got the likes of Wes Burns and Taylor who have been at the club for a number of years, and you like to think that they kind of run the dressing room into a certain degree. Obviously, you've got a new captain with Dara O'Shea, but it is really important that you have that squad togetherness, that's for sure. Yeah,
Luke touched on it earlier with Ashley Young dropping down, a very experienced footballer. We've got some youth in there as well. We've got some long-serving players. How balanced do you think the team and the squad is now?
Really balanced. When you look at the age demographic throughout the squad, they're almost... You've gone from having Ashley Young, who's a unique situation because of his quality and his experience. Gold dust in his own right, albeit he is 40 years of age, but he's
looks fit,
very, very athletic and still could play at the top level. But then they're almost, throughout the whole group, you've got players that are in their pomp years, so to speak, or into their prime. It's not a handful of young ones that you're hoping come to fruition. You've got lads that have been around it, been in the Premier League, been around the Championship, and they're all in prime years. So you're hoping that they're here for a duration. But if they get themselves back into Premier League where they deserve to be, then they're still within their prime years. And because the game's really athletic nowadays, it is. So barring freak situations like Ashley, because he is so athletic and he's got a wealth of experience, you need, I think, a good age demographic and players within their pomp, both mentally and physically, because it is a physical demanding game.
In that Norwich game, Town fans absolutely loved that pre-match team talk from Darragh O'Shea in the middle of the pitch. It was great work from the media team to be able to get that close. You probably wouldn't got that in the Premier League, you're not allowed on the pitch, but his leadership skills, he seems like a natural leader and a perfect fit for this Town team.
Yeah, obviously got dabbling in a bit of management. You see the other side of it, and I feel like, unfortunately, there's not enough leaders anymore. I feel like the game does change, and I feel like for me as a manager, I would personally try to get as many characters and as many leaders in my dressing room as possible. And like I say, Darragh O'Shea has been brilliant. Obviously, he's taken over the captaincy from Morsey, who's been a massive miss. So obviously we needed someone to step up, and I think he's been brilliant. He's another player I feel like he should be playing in the Premier League, but it's another coup for the club that we've held him down to a new contract. But yeah, it's brilliant, obviously, be able to see those sorts of scenarios, obviously, just before a game. But yeah, I just feel like you need those. It's all about mentality in football, and I feel like if you get those leaders and those characters in, when things are not going great, they're the people you need.
It feels like a changing room that any footballer would love to be a part of, because they seem like a really good group and all back each other to the nines, and that can only be a good thing moving forward.
Yeah, and again, it's when you hear, whether it be managers, assistants, directors of football, however we want to whoever it may be, you talk about signing really good players, but most importantly, you're talking about signing a good person, a good individual. That's easier said than done. So first and foremost, it has to be a good footballer. I still think just as equally as important is that good player, but you don't really know. You can do as many reference checks as you want and lean on as many favours as you can within the world of football. Until you get them in your building, you don't really know. This, like you said, seems a really close group. And getting an insight like you did prior to the game when he's doing his talk, and you can see the engagement in the rest of the group. They're not all just thinking, oh, come on, get on with it, hurry up, we need to. And that was similar with Chamber. It was. Before every game, Mick would give his bit, or the manager would give a bit, but you're still looking at him before the game to give you that last little push. Perfect from Darragh O'Shea. And I said prior, he was a natural replacement as a captain. He just seems that way. He carries a bit of an aura. He looks as a very, very good player, but just looks like a natural leader. And it's massively important, like Luke said earlier, for a manager to know that he's got that within his dressing room to iron out any little creases. It's gold dust.
Our midfield, we've spoken about at great lengths. Matt Sewa, Taylor, Jens Kajusde as well. But we were linked heavily with Hayden Hackney, who obviously is at Borough. Kieran mentioned it in his press conference that sometimes those deals happen, sometimes they don't. But how strong is our midfield? And do you think he'll have a point to prove tonight to say, why didn't you spend more on me? Why didn't you get me through the door?
Yeah, we obviously don't know what happened behind the scenes, and because I haven't seen much of him personally, and I know that obviously he was linked with a couple of Premier League clubs as well, and obviously nothing came to fruition in terms of a move for him. But obviously he's got great pedigree. Obviously played for England under 21s, but at the same time you look at our midfield and you feel we've arguably not just got the best squad, but the best midfield. And I think Matchday was coming in. I think he's exceeded everyone's expectations since coming in. I think I watched him in the first game of the season against Birmingham, and I thought he looked a little bit off it. And then another game, he kind of grew into it. And I think after 2 or 3 games in playing at this level and obviously playing into it in a different country, I think he's more than held his own. I think he's been really, really impressive. And players like that we need, because, like you say, him to be an old school destroyer, to then give it to the likes of Jaden Philogene to then put it in the top corner, it works pretty well. So yeah, it'd be an interesting battle up in that midfield area tonight.
With that squad that we've got and just how good we all think it is, comes more eyeballs on them. They get international call-ups. We were lucky to have multiple players go and represent their countries, which is absolutely fantastic. How much does that experience with them going away on international duty going to help us moving forward as well?
I think immensely, because if the more exposure they get to big settings, big fixtures, big occasions, it puts you at ease far quicker. So even rolling into Saturday's game, albeit it's a big occasion, they looked the size that naturally felt at ease quicker. I know goals that go from, I'm sure as the year goes by I get further back, but 30 yards out into the top bins, that helps. But they look to ease in the situation. And you've got wealth of experience. Even the younger ones within the group, they're exposed to international football almost regularly. So, of course, it's going to help. But I think this will be, going back to this evening's fixture, I think this will be a really good game. A really good game, I do.
We also had a couple of academy players get their first international call-ups, which is great considering the development that's gone through. How good is that for Ipswich Town's long-term development as a football club to produce these players that are being called up now to the international stage?
I think Ipswich always had a good history in terms of their academy setup and obviously bleeding as many youngsters into the first team. I think obviously going back in the past, I think we've had more than maybe the recent history, but at the same time, we've been invested a lot more money, and I think we've had the luxury of obviously going out and paying 10, 15 million for players, which we've not had that luxury for a number of years. But I think we should never get away from the fact of Ipswich being a family club and bleeding these youngsters through, because we say we've got such a good academy set up. So it is really important, and yeah, it's great for the club that we are getting these youngsters and getting international experience.
Yeah, long may that continue. Right, earlier in this week, Kieran McKenna spoke to the media ahead of tonight's game at the Riverside against Middlesbrough. Let's hear what he had to say.
Certainly has. Very good team. Strong home record. Solid and strong in all phases of the game. Certainly at home, been, getting really good results, giving away very few chances, being really stable. Good players, good balance of a team that have played together for a few years, but also some good additions this summer, and a really good manager as well. So we know we're going to face a strong opponent. But it's an exciting game. It's a type of challenge to look forward to, and it's coming around quick, and the Friday nights away from home after international duty are tough, but at the same time it dials everyone in straight away, and it's something to really look forward to going and tackling. Yeah, I think we're in a strong spot. As you said, there's in every transfer window there's a whole list of players that you're interested in, and some arrive and some don't arrive, and some are more public and some are less public that people never hear about. I think we've ended up with a really strong unit. I think you can see it in the growth in the performances. You can see it in the players that we've got there, and with them all fit at the moment. And Jens physically seems to be progressing really well as well. So there's lots of positives there for us. And if we can keep them all fit and available, and we can keep working with Azor and Marcelino, still really, really new to the club. Jens really new to the division, and with Jack Taylor and Cam Humphreys there, I think we've got really good strength, really good options.
The thoughts of Kieran McKenna there ahead of our trip to the Riverside against Middlesbrough. It is now time to take a look at Town's starting lineup. We mentioned it earlier. We are unchanged from the side that demolished Norwich at Portman Road. Carl, is that something that you expected to happen if everyone came back from international duty fit and healthy?
I think so, because there were loads of positives to take from the fixture. And I think that crop are the individuals that have shown sort of their best patches throughout the start of the season. You look at lads that have come off the bench like Nunes, Clark, Akpom, they've added to games in the latter stages. But I think the crop that's starting, like I said, rolling off a really good performance against Norwich, have been the individuals for me this season that have shown sort of their best sides.
One of those individuals, Cedric Kipre, we mentioned him earlier, getting that first goal. He's had to bide his time, but when he has come in, he's looked really sharp and looked really on it. It looks like a good bit of business, that, and he's rewarded with another start tonight. Yeah,
fair play to him, because it's not easy coming into a new club and obviously having to bide your time. But like I say, the last couple of games, his performance has been really good, especially against Norwich, which is really nice to see. So yeah, fair play to him, and that's what we want. We've got the squad depth. We want players competing for the shirt. So he knows that he needs to be on form to keep that shirt.
Another statement signing was Sindra Waller-Egerle, who, in glimpses when I've watched him, he looks like he's a real talent. Obviously, coming to a new country, he's got to find his feet, but another player that the Town fans can be excited about, Cole.
Yeah, he's shown sprinkles of brilliance, and they would have done endless amounts of hours of sort of research on him, I guess. And Kieran McKenna being, I think it's sort of well known who he's close friends with and who he's worked with at previous clubs. Having to lean on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I'm sure he's given him a glowing reference. And for them to go out and make a real statement in paying the fee that they paid for him, there has to be a huge element of promise. And like I said, he's shown real sprinkles, but the adjustment he's had to make to come into not only a new club, a new country, loads of new settings. So again, he's shown bits of brilliance that you think once he's settled and grown into his environment, he'll be an unbelievable signing for the club.
Yeah, and George Hurst, who leads the line for us this evening, it's been a bit of a stop-start one for him. Obviously had that disappointing penalty miss in the League Cup, but you feel like he's just a goal or two away for things to really start kicking on. And then a lot of the players before, when we filmed some content, were saying that they expect him to be top goal scorer, as you would as a striker. But you feel he's just a goal or two away from really finding that confidence and everything just flowing.
Yeah, well, so when I've been watching his performances, I feel like he's not hit the heights of maybe last season or the previous season when we were originally in the Championship. Just bits and pieces where he's a big physical presence who likes to run the line, get it into his feet, get it into his chest, whereas there's been a couple of times where he's kind of just bounced off him a little bit. But at the same time, that comes with confidence. But at the same time, for a player not to be hitting his peak form, and he's still got a number of goals, you're judged on goals at the end of the day, especially as a striker. So I'm sure there's still more to come.
Yeah, he's doing the right thing, George Hurst, and many congratulations on his international call-up as well, because he's with the Scotland squad now, it seems. Let's take a look at the substitutes as well for Town. We've spoken about it a lot. It is a very, very strong lineup. Casey McAteer's on there, Ashley Young, Jack Taylor after signing his new deal. But Carl, where do you think the game could be won from the bench?
You're hoping, first and foremost, to get up to a solid start, but like I said earlier, the guys that have come on in the top end of the pitch, Jack Clark's been really, really good this year. I'm delighted for him because he, again, with a little bit of honesty, he struggled in patches, but he looks like he's found a new lease of life. He looks like he's playing with confidence. Nunes, like we spoke about earlier, I think he naturally brings that confidence. Big one for me, though, coming off the bench would be Akpom. Going back to a former club, wanting to bring that little bit of extra or sprinkle of magic to impress. I think he'll be. I think that the lads in the top end of the pitch, you're hoping the bottom end of the pitch is solidified, and the boys in the top end of the pitch can come on and bring those extra little sprinkles.
I wonder if Akpon's been speaking to Nunez about how to celebrate if you do manage to bag. If we see Akpon running to the corner flag to go and start waving it, then we know Town have done their job this evening. Right, time to turn our attention to Middlesbrough. And to take us through their lineup, we're going to head over to our lead commentator, the brilliant, the wonderful Glenn Wheeler.
Yeah, thanks for that, Curly. So, Rob Edwards has made 4 changes to the side that started against Portsmouth last time out before the international break. That was actually Middlesbrough's first defeat of the season. Out go Luke Ayling, Aidan Morris, Kaylee Sene and Sontier Hansen. In come Alan Brown, Morgan Whittaker, David Strelec and Delano Bergzorg. Goalkeeper Senny Dieng is yet to return from a long-term Achilles injury, so Sol Bryn continues to start in goal. Captain Dale Fry returned to the starting 11 against Portsmouth and is fit to play again tonight as he battles against a recurring calf issue. Hayden Hackney, as you mentioned, was heavily linked with a move to Ipswich in the summer. Kieran McKenna spoke about him glowingly in his pre-match press conference. Hackney joins Alan Brown in midfield. And 3 of Borough's attacking 4 scored against Ipswich during the 2023-24 season. There's a quirk for you. Morgan Whittaker, Delano Bergzorg and Tommy Conway all on target against the Blues. In terms of the Borough bench, the standout 18-year-old Man City loanee Sverre Naipan is on the bench. He made his debut for Norway in a friendly draw with New Zealand on Tuesday night.
Fantastic work as always, Glenn. Right, earlier on, Jacob Henderson spoke to Darnell Furlong to get his thoughts ahead of today's clash. Let's hear what he had to say.
Darnell, appreciate you talking to us ahead of this evening's clash against Middlesbrough. Has it been a balance between sort of preparing for this one but also getting the lads back from the international break?
Yeah, definitely. It's a quick turnaround for those boys. Obviously, we have a bit of almost downtime away from them. But yeah, as soon as they're back into the group, it's a lot of information to take on for the game to make sure we're prepared right.
Early in the season, this looks like a very competitive fixture, doesn't it? What are your thoughts?
Always a good game, a competitive game to come and play here at the Riverside. But yeah, we're confident in our ability. We've done the work, we've done the prep, and we've got the quality in the squad. So looking forward to it.
And I know you guys try not to get too high or too low, but after the East Anglian derby victory, that must have felt good, and you want to carry that momentum forward.
Yeah, brilliant feeling. Just another win, but obviously it was nice to do it again against them with the history and the 16 years, etc. But yeah, that was nice, but it's gone now, and it's about focusing on tonight and backing it up.
Over 2,500 fans making the trip as well. That's very good for a long trip on a Friday night, and the game's on TV. Will you need them?
Yeah, definitely. We'll always need them everywhere we go. But yeah, it's great support. We don't take it for granted how far they've travelled and what they sacrificed to be here. So yeah, hopefully we can put on a good show and get them the points.
Good luck, Darnell.
The thoughts of Darnell Furlong there. Right, we're edging closer to kick-off. They mentioned it there, 2,500 fans travelling to the Riverside. How important are they going to be tonight to get us over the line, Luke?
Yeah, massively important. I know a couple of people going up there for the weekend, so I think they're staying in Newcastle. But yeah, it is massively important. And we've got such a good away following. It does make a massive, massive difference. So yeah, just hopefully that they played their part as well.
Cole, final thoughts on the game. How do you see it going? Can you give us a prediction as well at the end of those thoughts?
I will try my very best.
You always do.
I will. They do carry threats. I think looking at individuals like Whittaker, Conway, they do carry real threats. So as much as I said, off the bench, we're going to need people in the top end of the pitch to play their part. Back end of the pitch, I think we'll have to absorb elements of pressure this evening. Of course you will, go into a place like Middlesbrough. But I think the game will be one sort of bottom end of the pitch for us. If they're top for us at the very back of the pitch, I think we'll have enough top ends to go and win the game. I think the score will be 2-1.
Luke, prediction, score?
Let's go 3-1 again.
Yeah?
Yeah,
you like that one, don't you?
Yeah, we'll go 3-1 again. I'll take that.
Okay, a reminder, £10 match passes are available to international supporters in select regions. So if you can watch the game, make sure you do. Town TV subscribers, you will have the brilliant audio commentary from Glenn Wheeler and Ian Westlake. All that's left for us to do is say a big thank you to Cole Scouse, Luke Hyam, Ed Sheeran, because we know you're watching, and of course our sponsors, Fleximize. James Anadakis is back in the hot seat on Tuesday as we host Charlton Athletic. We'll see you then.
Just like football, business moves fast. And when you need funding, there's no time to wait. At Fleximize, we keep things simple. No penalties, no red cards, just fast, flexible business loans. We only ask for the essentials and you'll get a decision within 24 hours. Once approved, the funds are in your account the same day. Fleximize, let's fund your goals.
It's a new season, a new challenge, a new home, some new faces, the same support. We need you again. Let's do this together.
When we started this, did we ever think we'd have a partnership with a football club? Absolutely not. This is beyond our wildest dreams. We pretty much exclusively hire graduates at Halo. We're very proud of our Suffolk roots. Halo's a pretty passionate, positive, enthusiastic place generally, but when you've also got what's going on at the football club, and it's just blending passion and enthusiasm.